I'm Katie Darrell, and today we are at home and social with Taylor Momsen of The Pretty Reckless. Welcome, Taylor.
Hello, thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really good. Did you start your day off right? Are you a breakfast girl?
I am not a breakfast girl, but today was an early morning, and I'm certainly not a morning girl. So my brain's a little bit delayed today. I feel like I'm playing catch up.
What about coffee? Can you get that into your system, or do you avoid it?
I've bbeen trying to not drink so much coffee. I do drink tea though, a lot of green tea. So got a little caffeine. I'm waiting for it'll kick in here soon, hopefully.
Just at the end of the interview, we're just going to do like a speed round because you're going to be like buzzed.
Yeah, right. By the very end, I'll be together.
Well, congratulations. The album Death by Rock and Roll totally kicks butt. And most surprisingly is the fact that that title has never been used by anyone. What?
You're the first person to say that, and I've thought that as well. This was the first album I think that we actually had titled before we had all the songs for the record, because as soon as that line came into play, it's actually a line that had been kicking around for a very long time. It was something that that our producer Cato used to say. It was this phrase of like this ethic that we lived our life by, of death by rock and roll, live life your own way, go out your own way, don't let anyone tell you differently. And he, sadly passed in a motorcycle accident. And when we lost him, that phrase just kind of became so relevant in a new way again, that it was just, that was it. It was immediately like, well, that's what we're calling the next record. So luckily, yes, it has not been used before.
It has not been used. It's also, so not only is it the album title, but it's your first single off the album was Death by Rock and Roll, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that actually had like a lyric video, right? Because it was kind of released that peak of COVID time.
Yeah, it was. The lyric video actually turned out really cool. It was, it was done by an artist named Lucas David, who I've been following for years. I found him on Instagram almost a decade ago, and he's been drawing me for a very long time. And I'm a big fan of his art. And when we were looking to do something, because we couldn't film an actual video yet, just due to COVID and quarantine and everything, I reached out to him, and he kind of put his own artistic spin on that. And I think it turned out really awesome.
Well, that was single number 1 off the album. We've now jumped and we're all the way at single number 3, which is Only Love Can Save Me Now. You got to do a video for this one. And
you did.
Video shoots are known as grueling within the industry, and you're wet. So let's talk about, was it one day, long day, 4 days? What are we talking about here?
Well, the whole process was pretty crazy. Where do I begin? We actually filmed 3 videos in New York City back to back, and I guess back in November. And so still during COVID. So that alone was insane. So it was 3 videos in 4 days. And that was, so then put that on top of it. Only Love Can Save Me Now was the last video we shot. So it was the last day. And the concept was pretty much just, how can we make a hurricane inside? So we figured that out. We brought in a huge rain truck that I was the lucky one that got to get soaked. Right. But there was only about, I think it was 16 minutes worth of rain. So we only got a couple takes with the actual rain, freezing ice cold rain in November, keep in mind you. So it was a very crazy, it was a very hectic experience, but very fun. And at the same time, we also, the song features Matt Cameron and Kim Thale. Yeah. And so they were in Seattle at the time. And, so we actually we had 2 crews going on. So we had filming us in New York. And then we had a secondary crew in Seattle, which I was directing via FaceTime, and somehow trying to make it all come together and look cohesive. Right. Like we're all in the same space at the end of it. So it was quite the undertaking, but literally and figuratively, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm really proud of how it turned out.
Now, you mentioned already that the single features Matt Cameron and Kim Thale of Soundgarden fame, which, what's cool is obviously this is a band that you've spoken about that you looked up to, before you were kick-ass rocker yourself, right?
Yeah.
At what point did these guys, in your mind, go from people you looked up to and rock stars, right? I'll never get to meet them, to really feeling like your peers?
Well, first of all, there's still people I look up to and are rock stars. So, I've just now met them, and I've gotten to know them, which, that really started we were opening for Soundgarden. And so that's really where we, formed a friendship, and we just kind of stayed in touch after, obviously that tour ended very tragically, but we remained close after that. And so when, I wrote the song Only Love Can Save Me Now, it had this very Soundgarden-esque feel to it. And I really couldn't hear it without them. So I sent Matt a very rough demo of the song and called him up and was like, hey, would you guys be interested in playing on this? And he took a listen and he said, absolutely. And it was just such a cool full circle moment, at least for myself. I don't want to speak for them, but it was so great. We actually recorded it in Seattle, which was awesome, at the legendary London Bridge Studios, which is where Soundgarden recorded Louder Than Love. Pearl Jam made 10, Alice in Chains made Dirt, like a studio with a lot of history in it. And it was just so exciting and so much fun to be together and creating something new after so much loss and sadness and, everything that we'd all been through together and separately. It was a very beautiful moment. And on a light note, they just completely overtook the song. I mean, the first time Matt hits a snare and the first note that Kim plays on the guitar, I thought the speakers were going to explode. It was just the coolest moment ever.
And what about the first time you heard that guitar solo? Because, okay, Only Love Can Save Me Now, it's the latest single. We're talking to Taylor Momsen of The Pretty Reckless. That guitar solo wails.
Oh yeah. Kim does not disappoint. I mean, I don't even know where he comes up with this stuff. And he's like a wizard from another planet or something. It was awesome. I was in the room when he recorded that, and it was just, I don't know, where does he get this stuff? I mean, I certainly built it into the song because I really wanted to give them space to shine. Yeah. So that section was there for him to kind of take over. But I didn't know what it was going to sound like or what it was going to be. And as soon as he just started to attack it, it was just all hands went up in the air, heads went back. It was like, well, guess we don't have to do that twice.
Now, this is your fourth studio album, and it seems like you did not hold back. Not that you were in the past, but I mean, this is an album where you did collaborate with so many epic people, including Tom Morello is on this album. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you were sitting around and coming up with this album, did you have your Rolodex open next to you and you're like, gonna call Tom, gonna call Matt?
No, because I don't think like that. I don't write like that. Like I never write with the intention of asking someone to be a part of it. It's song driven. So the songs come first. And if there's someone outside, if I hear someone outside of the four of us that would really contribute something and elevate the song to its full potential, then I might make a phone call, just because you don't get anything if you don't ask. And so it's kind of the same thing with Tom, as it was with Matt and Kim, where I wrote the song and so it went. And just due to the kind of, the lyrical content of the song, the overall kind of energy, and what it was saying, it made a lot of musical sense to me to ask Tom to be a part of it. He's one of those guitar players like Kim that just has such a unique voice with what he does, that is so definingly him, that I really thought that he would contribute something that would really take the song to its full potential. So same thing. I've made a demo, called him up, sent him the song, asked him if he'd want to play on it. He thankfully said yes. And we didn't actually do that in person together like we did with Matt and Kim, but when he sent his tracks back and we put it all together, he comes in screaming and wailing, and it's been awesome. Yeah.
The album Death by Rock and Roll, title track Death by Rock and Roll, that was the first single. What are the rules on releasing the title track as the first single as opposed to holding it back? The reason I ask is I've read that you've said that the current single, Only Love Can Save Me Now, is actually your favorite. So why did you hold back the favorite?
Well, they're all my favorite. So, I mean, Only Love Can Save Me Now holds a very special place in my heart just for so many reasons. I mean, getting to work with Matt and Kim was just a beyond dream come true. Like if you had told me 10 years ago or 15 years ago that one day that would happen, I would have said you were lying. Yeah. So just that, so that alone is just something that's one of my proudest accomplishments. But this whole record is, so it's kind of impossible to pick an actual favorite. I mean, Death by Rock and Roll, same thing. I mean, that song was almost 10 years in the making. I mean, that we started working on that like literally 10 years ago. And when Kato passed, it came back around and we finished it and recorded it. So it's every song is super important. It's the culmination. It's what makes an album. So I can't pick that. So I retract my statement of favorite. They're all my favorite. It's like picking a favorite kid.
All those interviews need to be retracted, right?
I know.
All right. So congratulations this year at the iHeartRadio Music Awards. You won Rock Artist of the Year, or the Pretty Reckless one.
Yeah.
Not just you, there's others.
No, it's
Um,
fans.
it's a great category, a lot of hard competition. And people need to remember that it's Artist of the Year. So it's that year specifically. It's not a lifetime achievement. So,
No.
but also in the category AC/DC, Ozzy Osbourne, Five Finger Death Punch, and Shinedown.
Yep.
If you had to give a secret second place award in that category, who do you think really shined as your toughest competitor?
Well, first of all, when I saw the list, I went, we're not going to win that. Like, oh, that's cool to be nominated. Like, I completely
Right.
wrote it off. Like, I didn't even think twice. So then to get the phone call that we won, I was flabbergasted. I was like, you're lying to me. Like, this isn't true. So it's very cool, very great company to be a part, in with. And I don't want to pick seconds, but AC/DC, I'm a huge AC/DC fan.
Yeah.
So, as soon as I saw their name, I was like, forget it.
Yeah, they came out pretty strong with that album during quarantine too,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, no, I was not expecting the win, but hey, here we are. So thanks everyone who voted.
You've spoken a lot about your admiration of classic rock in general, whether it be the Beatles to Led Zeppelin to Bob Dylan. Which do you like to discuss more, classic rock or more current music? Like when you're sitting around, with, the gang on the couch, what gravitates you in the conversation?
Probably classic rock, classic rock, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I've never thought of that question before. We just talk about what we like. So
Yeah.
we don't really listen to a lot of new music, if I'm being honest. So
Right.
the conversations kind of always stem to the great bands. And the cool thing about great bands is that they never get old. So you're constantly discovering something new. There's always a new documentary or a new interview that's coming out, or you're listening to the same song that you've heard 10 billion times before, and you finally just hear something different in it. And,
Yeah.
it hits you differently. It affects you differently. You notice a tambourine placement, or, whatever it is. And I think that's the music that I love, that you can listen to ad nauseum and still continually discover something new inside of it.
Let's talk about vinyl, and let's talk about your voice on vinyl.
Okay.
I know I believe actually the latest album was like number 5 in vinyl sales when it first came out, which is like amazing to think of. Do you get the opportunity to listen to the vinyl takes versus just the studio cuts because you've listened to it just so many times and in the editing process that you don't even want to hear it again? Or do you take the time to then be like, and here's the vinyl pressing?
Oh, no, you definitely take the time, like 1,000%. We go through multiple test pressings and everything before it's just right. Because the vinyl is very important to me. I mean, for a lot of reasons, but, one, I grew up on vinyl. I grew up listening to my dad's record collection. So to be able to make our own now, even though we live in such a fast paced digital world, I think is so cool because it makes it feel real, to physically hold something in your hands and be able to look, to open it up and see the artwork, I feel like I don't even know where you see artwork now online. Like you see the record cover and this tiny little digital thing, but where can you even view the booklet and stuff? And I personally put so much time and thought into that, because it's completing the story of the album, and the liner notes and, all that stuff's fun to read. At least it was for me. So I love that vinyl has made a comeback. And I personally just think it sounds better. So I'm very pleased that our fans have taken the time to get it and check it out and listen to it that way. Not that there's anything wrong with streaming, or, I listen to streaming all the time, but when you really want to absorb something for its full, I don't know, whatever, there's something special about vinyl.
You talked about the artwork and getting to actually see and hold that. For Death by Rock and Roll, the artwork is this image of you, I believe, naked or scantily clad, shall we say?
I'm nude, yes.
Okay. And you are on a headstone.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it fits very well with the title of the album and the title track. Was there a mood? Did that create a mood? Because I know that there was a lot of emotions attached to this album, having come after the death of Kato, your producer, and Chris Cornell. what was the vibe in shooting that? Were you able to compartmentalize, or were you very aware of what you were doing?
I was very aware of I'm always very aware of what I'm doing when I'm creating. I spend visuals are very important to me, and I spend a lot of time conceiving of them before I actually get on to set, from album artwork to music videos to, to anything that's tied to the music. I spend months and months thinking about what it should be before we actually get there. The record cover, that concept came from, obviously the title, but also just kind of, where do I begin? The kind of concept of, you're born into this world with nothing but your soul, and you leave with nothing but your soul. And how do you kind of reflect that in a photograph and have it be, represent the sadness and the pain and the tortured side of this album, but also the hopeful side of this record as well. So it was, and have it be very pure and very vulnerable, but yet aggressive. And so it has a lot of juxtaposition to it, down to even the lighting of how the shot itself was lit is very specific, where it kind of emulates the album itself, where the first half of the record is very dark and very heavy and almost bleak. And the second half of the record, about halfway through, there's this kind of musical shift where it starts to get a little lighter and a little more hopeful. And that's on the photograph, that's the light is coming down and where my face is turned towards the light. Because this album is really much, the word I keep using is a rebirth. It's a rebirth for the band. It's a rebirth for myself. And I really wanted to, capture that in a photograph, which is not always the easiest thing, but I'm very proud of how it turned out. And I'm glad that it's out in the world now.
Let's talk about some fun stuff. All right. You're not a breakfast girl.
Not a breakfast. Although I do love breakfast for dinner. I just don't eat it in the morning. So I don't know. Does that make me a breakfast girl?
I mean, a good Denver omelet any time of the day, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I love eggs. Like eggs for dinner, one of my favorite go-to meals.
So do you often also skip lunch and just kind of power pack the end of the day?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I sleep really late and I stay up all night. So maybe my dinner is breakfast for normal people. I don't know. Just because my times are always so messed up. But yeah, I'm more of a snack person, and then I eat like one meal at night.
All right. Speaking of snacks, when you go to a concert or a stadium event and you get to the concession stand, favorite concession stand food?
Ooh, good question. I haven't had concession stand food in so long that I don't even remember what they sell. For real.
Now it's gotten really like poshy and everything. So go to the old school day. Yeah. Now they're like, it's all fancy and there's like, sea salt on top of everything.
It's like the sea salted pretzels. I like sea salt. I mean, I guess, nachos are always good. Yeah. Although they're kind of messy and hard to carry, but nachos are good.
Favorite animal to visit when you do go to the zoo?
Ooh, I love watching the monkeys at the zoo. I just think they're super funny. Monkeys, and I love seeing the big cats, like the tigers and stuff.
When you go swimming, do you get your hair wet, or you kind of like doggy paddle in the shallow end?
No, I definitely get my hair wet. I mean, it depends, but usually I'm actually a really good swimmer. I'm currently in Maine, and I live by the ocean, and I swim for like miles and miles in the ocean. So definitely getting wet.
And let's talk about the first song you wrote that you thought, this is good, this is recordable, I could sell this.
Sell this. I don't think I've ever thought the phrase "I could sell this" in my life. I really don't. It's just not how I make music. It's actually
maybe someone else will want to hear this.
Sure. I don't know. I mean, I guess how about this? The first song that I actually wanted people to hear, it's probably a better way to say it, was had to have been something off the first record. And I'm trying to think what the actual first song was. It's probably "Make Me Want to Die." Was the first song where I kind of turned to the guys. We had just, we'd finally come together as a unit, as a band. And I was like, oh, I really want the world to hear this. Like, we just made something that I consider really great and I'm really proud of. And sweet, let's do it again.
Anyways, well, Death by Rock and Roll, it is the latest album by The Pretty Reckless. Taylor, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. And I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you. Have a good one.
Bye. Stay safe.
You too.
Hey there, thanks for watching Access TV. Subscribe, follow, like, and do all the good stuff. And make sure you leave a comment below. I don't know, just let us know what your favorite Access TV show is, or who your favorite bands are, and what artists you're into, or just say hi, man. I like to be told hi. We love hearing from you. That's the point, all right? Keep it coming.